For decades, lake monster videos were easy to dismiss. Blurry clips, shaky cameras, moments captured briefly, uploaded online and forgotten. Most of them deserved skepticism. Many could be explained as boats, debris, waves, or optical illusions. But a small number of cases were different. They didn't just circulate among believers. They didn't disappear after a few days of attention. They triggered formal investigation. Reviewed by researchers, examined by documentary teams, analyzed using sonar, drones, underwater cameras, and historical comparison. Every case in this list still has ordinary explanations on the table, and that's the point. Because when footage is taken seriously enough to be investigated, it stops being just a story. These are 5 lake monster videos that cross that line, counting down from number 5 to number 1. Number 5 begins with the most famous lake of all, Loch Ness. In 1960, engineer Tim Dinsdale filmed an object moving across the surface of Loch Ness. The footage is short, distant, and famously unclear. At first glance, it could be many things. But what made it unusual was not clarity, it was persistence. The film was examined repeatedly over decades by photographic analysts, military experts, and organized Loch Ness research groups. Even the Royal Air Force reviewed the footage, attempting to identify whether the object matched known boats or surface disturbances. Some analysts concluded it could be a vessel. Others noted inconsistencies in speed and wake behavior compared to boats common at the time. No consensus was ever reached. What matters is not what the object was. What matters is that the footage was not dismissed. It was archived, studied, returned to again and again. That alone places it in a different category than most alleged monster videos. Number 4 takes us to Canada, Okanagan Lake, British Columbia. In 1968, Art Folden captured what remains the most famous film associated with Ogopogo. The footage shows a long, segmented shape moving across calm water. It does not leap, it does not thrash. It moves steadily, producing a series of humps. Over the years, the film has been examined by scientists, documentary producers, and media investigators. Possible explanations were explored: floating logs, wave trains, wind effects, and optical distortions. None were conclusively accepted, and none were conclusively ruled out. What makes the Folden film significant is not what it proves, but how it has been treated. It became a reference case. Not folklore passed down by word of mouth, but a visual record repeatedly revisited when discussing unexplained lake phenomena. Number 3 brings the mystery into the modern era, Lake Champlain. In 2024, drone footage captured an elongated object moving beneath the surface of the lake. Unlike earlier cases, this footage was recorded from above, using stabilized aerial technology. The object appears dark, extended, and in motion, visible through the water from a clear overhead angle. The footage was later discussed in media contexts connected to the Unexplained, where experts reviewed the video frame by frame. They examined speed, scale, wake behavior, and environmental context. Conventional explanations were considered: boats, debris, surface disturbances. No extraordinary conclusion was declared, but the footage was not dismissed either. It crossed a threshold, not extraordinary enough to confirm anything, but compelling enough to justify expert review. That middle ground is rare. Number 2 returns to Okanagan Lake, but this time not by chance recording. In 2023, modern expeditions deployed remotely operated vehicles and sonar equipment into the lake. These were not tourists with cameras. They were organized efforts by research groups and documentary-led exploration teams operating under controlled, recorded conditions. ROVs descended into dark water. Sonar mapped the lake bed. Continuous video feeds were monitored and archived. The resulting footage showed unidentified shapes near the bottom of the lake, not clearly defined, not identifiable as known animals. Investigators emphasized caution. No creature was declared, no sensational conclusions were drawn. But this footage mattered because of how it was obtained. It was not accidental, it was deliberate investigation. And it was preserved alongside sonar data and environmental measurements for continued analysis. Number 1 returns us to Loch Ness, but not to the past. In 2023, the most extensive lake monster investigation ever conducted took place. On the 90th anniversary of the first modern Nessie sighting, researchers and volunteers launched a coordinated survey of the loch. This was not a single expedition. It was a multi-day operation using modern technology. High-resolution sonar scanned beneath the surface. Thermal drones flew above the water. Continuous recording systems monitored movement across wide areas. Hours upon hours of video and sensor data were collected. Nothing conclusive was found. And that is precisely why this case matters most. Because it represents the peak of investigation, a legend examined with modern tools, transparent methods, public scrutiny. If something extraordinary existed at a detectable scale, this effort had the best chance of finding it. The fact that it didn't does not invalidate the mystery, it defines its boundary. There is no peer-reviewed evidence confirming lake monsters as unknown species. Most scientists favor explanations like misidentified animals, floating debris, wave patterns, or optical illusions. That position has not changed. But science does not begin with certainty, it begins with investigation. And in each of these cases, the footage was compelling enough to justify a closer look. That alone separates them from thousands of videos that never leave the internet. These videos didn't endure because they proved anything. They endured because they survived scrutiny. Again and again, investigators return to the same question, not is this a monster, but what exactly are we seeing? And sometimes, even after investigation, the water keeps its answer. That is where legends live, not in belief, but in uncertainty. If you value documentaries that focus on evidence, investigation, and scientific boundaries, not hype or conclusions that go beyond the data, consider subscribing. New footage, new tools, and new research continue to reshape how mysteries like these are examined. And the most interesting stories are often the ones that remain unresolved.